this kind of breaking
Who the
fluid
fuck
situation.
does this kind of shit?
Hard numbers are difficult to come by, and they tend to change. Our best available information right now is that at least 26 people have been killed, perhaps 27. And of the total number killed, we're told 18 of them are children. This is a school that had
18
children as young as
dead,
kindergartners. It's an elementary school,
including some teachers.
And a large number, 18 we're told, of children are dead.
Shooter's dead.
We know that one
There's a possibility of another shooter.
at the scene, and we know
They
that
said someone was in
handguns, which we
custody
believe
or
to be
something
semi-assault,
along those lines. I'm not sure.
Handguns have been recovered. One of the big questions that's still out there for
Who
us
the fuck
is
does this shit?
John Miller's reported that police are questioning a second person detained
Now
at the
they
scene.
just reduced the number, at least 26.
I
just saw it.
Of the plot, someone that took
I was watching it, it says 27.
Who is this person? So
I don't know
far,
what this
authorities
is
have not given us the
about,
name
this
of the
yellow
suspect,
and
certainly
red.
No one is even
What's
speculating
that
on a
about?
potential motive, although early on we were told this may have started with some kind of disagreement, some kind of discussion between the gunman and the front office there. It's a chaotic scene still. While there's no longer an active shooter situation, meaning there is no.
In fact, why does he even have a gun in the first place?
Police are satisfied now that there's no danger lurking with another weapon. Well, it's not an active shooter investigation. The scene is still being processed. SWAT teams early on went room by room by room, looking for people maybe hiding, looking to identify pockets of potential victims. That search, we're told, continues. The evidence search is just now beginning, as is the awful task of notifying
December
parents
21st,
and families and trying to explain
heading our way in just a week.
Nora, I understand
the Mayan calendar doomsday prediction coming in just a week makes you wonder if the end of the world really is near.
Expected to update us on the victims involved here. Let's return now to John Miller. And John, what are we learning from authorities?
We're pretty much in a static position now with one gunman dead, another possible suspect in custody. As Bob said, we're still trying to suss that out. A number of locations in the area being looked at by investigators where they're going to either interview people associated with one or more of these suspects to figure out who is this person, what was bothering them, was there any sign this was coming up, but also to the residences that they believe are the actual homes of the one or possibly second suspect to see what evidence can we find there, and very cautiously in that regard. Those entries are being done by SWAT teams who are obviously, I mean, you and I went through the morning of that Aurora case where they got to the scene and found multiple booby traps, so as a precaution they're moving very deliberately on those locations.
John, when you spoke with authorities, how did they describe the scene there at the school?
They described a terrible scene of doing a search through the school and finding victims, 1 and 2 and 3 at a time, together in rooms, and then in other places finding other children hiding. So that doesn't tell us what happens, but it gives us the beginning of a picture of what must have been going on as some ran, as some hid, and as some came into the line of fire.
And we want to show everyone where we're expecting authorities from Newtown to address reporters there so that we can get the very latest from authorities there. This, of course, happened at Sandy Hook Elementary School. At least one gunman involved, a parent, perhaps, of one of the students there, and multiple fatalities, as we were reporting here at CBS News. We have at least 26 dead, including 18 children. Right. As you can imagine, this has shaken not just this town, but many who are watching this.
Speaking of shaking, I'm kind of shaking myself. I can barely hold this still.
Bob Orr is joining us now from Washington. Bob, I understand that the president was informed about this earlier this morning when it happened. What more are you learning from federal officials?
Well, right, Nora, the president was told, we're told the White House is now monitoring this on a fairly regular basis. Department of Homeland Security is involved, ATF, FBI, all of the law enforcement agencies are working this now, basically in a second position, assisting the folks up there, the state and local folks in Connecticut. The president's press secretary, Jay Carney, was asked a number of questions about this morning. One of the things was very notable, we've mentioned once before, is that Carney was asked point blank if today's incident, this horrific massacre, alters or impacts President Obama's policy on gun violence and gun control. Carney looked at the questioner and said, well, there's a day for discussion for such matters, but today is not that day. When pressed further, however, we're told that Carney did say that the White House remains, these are his words, committed to trying to renew the ban on assault weapons. That's politically been a non-starter, as you know, Nora, for a long time here. So we'll see whether or not this latest gun-related tragedy moves that debate. I mean, it's been a terrible year, let's face it. We saw the slaughter in Aurora, Colorado. We saw, then months later, the shooting at the Sikh temple. And now we have this shooting, which really is among the pantheon of worst events in our history. 32 people, as we reported a couple of times, were shot and killed at Virginia Tech in 2007. We looked at some of the other historical records. In Killeen, Texas, in a cafeteria there in 1991, 23 people were killed. We're talking today about 26 fatalities, maybe 27 fatalities. And while Columbine is kind of the touchstone for people about school shootings, and not to mitigate how awful that was, because that was a terrible event too, there were 12 people killed at Columbine, 12 people killed at Columbine, and others wounded. The death toll in today's shooting is twice what it was in Columbine, and then some. And also in Aurora, Colorado, where the shooting played out at the Batman showing of the movie, the midnight movie, back in July of this year. Again, there were 12 victims in Aurora, and today's toll will be more than twice that. A lot of unanswered questions, Nora. We still don't know how many shooters. We know one is dead. There may be others. There may have been at least one other, but that's not confirmed. We know a couple of guns have been recovered. There may have been others, and we're not sure about that. Until police can get a better picture of who is involved and a better understanding of why they did this, we will have perplexing questions as we try to make this inexplicable tragedy make some sense.
And Bob, one of the most disheartening things is that this is an elementary school. Very young children involved. What do we know about the gunman?
Well, very little. I mean, and we're not sure if it's one gunman or two, just to be perfectly clear. But apparently, this man, John has reported, has some roots in New Jersey. Traveled, it seems, to this elementary school. We don't know why he picked the school. We don't know if he's a former student, or if perhaps might have had a grudge against a parent or a family at that school, or maybe the administrator of the school. We don't know. But for whatever reason, this morning shows up at this school, which is, as we've made the point several times, is an undefended target. It's not a fortress. It's an elementary school. And he shows up armed to the teeth, apparently, a couple of high-powered weapons, multiple magazines, and then goes about with what only can be called an execution. I mean, defenseless children and teachers who are caught in the chaos with no defenses. And he just goes room by room, apparently, if it's one or more gunmen, and takes this awful toll. I mean, until we have a better idea who this person is and whether he's connected to something larger, we can't begin to understand it. But police are pressing all the way, I can assure you, across the state, the local, and the federal levels to get an understanding of how did this play out? You know, where did it originate? How long was the plot in the making? Did anybody know anything about it? Was there any foreknowledge? Did we miss any warning signs? You know, how could we be surprised this morning and end up with a terrible, terrible toll that we see now of the suffering playing out in Connecticut? So, Nora, I'm afraid we still have many more questions than we do answers, but we know enough to know that this is an awful event.
Absolutely, an awful event. We are standing by, just to remind everyone, for a news conference by authorities in Newtown who are expected to give us the latest information from there. I want to go now to one of the witnesses who was on the scene.
Witnesses.
I saw him walk a guy out earlier with handcuffs. He walked by us and said he didn't do it.
It was a grown man.
A grown man, yeah. He's sitting in the front of the police car over there now. So, I mean...
He didn't have a gun?
No, I didn't see any gun. Just had him handcuffed. And he walked by us and looked into parents' eyes and said, I didn't do it.
How was he dressed?
Camo pants with a dark jacket.
And there you see one of the witnesses describing what he saw there. Let's return now to Bob Orr, who has been speaking with authorities about this. And Bob, what are you learning?
Well, I think one of the things we're trying to figure out, Nora, is why. You know, it's always the most perplexing question when you're confronted with something like this.
I might record again
to
show the supposed police interview they're talking about.